welcome to the new episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. And boy, are we going to talk a movie tonight. Because we are. I don't know what I was hyping there. I mean, we are going to talk about a good movie. So, at least I think it's a good movie. Is Dakota going to show his cards yet and say that he thinks this is a good movie?
We're going to be traveling beyond to a time and space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
To a podcast where the hosts are to what movies, what Internet Explorer was to the internet.
I really want to smoke a cigarette right now. Is that weird?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rod Sterling. I just butchered your delivery.
Oh. But thank you for the screenplay to Planet of the Apes on top of all of the great Twilight Zone episodes you did.
Yeah, it's so weird for a writer, like a good writer, to just kind of have a presence in the show like that.
Yeah.
Because if it was like Alex Kurtzman, I think people would have just stopped watching Star Trek Discovery like on the third episode. Like,
yeah, it takes a specific type of person to pull that, like, because there was Alfred Hitchcock Presents, where obviously he gave the name of the show a thing that sounds like I'm going to be the one that introduces you into these stories. Alfred Hitchcock is obviously presenting the stories or whatever. And, yeah, I don't know, because didn't Rod Sterling do the same thing with Night Gallery? He kind of introduced that show in too, didn't he? I feel like he did.
I think he just did voiceovers. I don't think he actually showed up.
Oh, okay. Because that was one where I'm like a tinge familiar with, but I didn't see it as much as obviously the Twilight Zone.
I think some channel used to show it really late, and that's the only time I watched anything related to it.
Yeah,
maybe it was Sci-Fi.
I know. Well, I think it must have been a network. Because I feel like, do you think ABC showed them late at some point? Because I feel like I thought I saw it on like ABC or something.
I feel like that'd be a Fox maneuver.
That's true. That does seem almost more like a Fox thing. Or USA or something. Oh, man. Well, anyway, the reason we were talking about Mr. Serling and the Twilight Zone and things of that nature is that this movie very much is in that vein and in a lot of ways really an homage to the Twilight Zone. This movie is a little over 90 minutes and is really just in a little over 90-minute Twilight Zone episode. In fact, when the movie starts, it's zooming in on this 1950s television that's playing this intro that seems familiar, but the dialogue is different. And you're like, wait, it almost feels like they're trying to do the Twilight Zone intro, and it calls itself Paradox Theater, which I thought was really funny. I laughed at that. So, where they were kind of giving this movie world's version of Twilight Zone where you're not having to pay for any copyright licenses or things, which I thought was fun. And it really kind of gave you this is the flavor of that movie. Are you okay with that? And it kind of lets you just kind of like settle in, which I thought was a smart maneuver. It allowed you to just kind of rest in the story like you do with a lot of Twilight Zones. You're just like, I know this is going to take me on a little bit of a trip. I'm just going to sit here and take that trip.
You know, it's interesting, too, because I saw the trailer for this. I think YouTube was just airing the crap out of, like, the teaser, the trailer there for, like, maybe a week. And then it finally popped up on Amazon, and I was just like, be something to fall asleep to.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, you just never know with these movies that are bought by a streaming service, and you know it's like a independent movie, and
to just go completely off script. That same thing happened with Palm Springs. I was just like, maybe I'll get a smirk or two out of this, and actually ended up enjoying it.
Yeah, that movie went over. It seemed to be really popular, and that was also Amazon, right? Was that Prime?
That was.
I think
drawing a blank. I want to say Hulu.
Oh, maybe that was a Hulu. I don't remember, but I do remember that one being advertised a lot. The Vast of Night that we were talking about here.
You know, just to kind of interject here, I just realized there's like so many streaming services out there. It's hard to keep track.
It's as bad as cable.
But you know something? It sure wasn't HBO Max.
It was not HBO Max.
Because this was enjoyable.
And it definitely wasn't Quibi. Because Quibi doesn't exist, and it wasn't broken up into 10-minute parts.
Steven, what are these strange words you just threw together to make one word?
Oh, I don't know. Let's ask Jeffrey Katzenberg. He seemed to think it was going to be something amazing. Just here's a slight Quibi tangent. You'd think during a pandemic, Quibi would have taken off, and it still failed spectacularly. It was this weird, for those of you who don't know, because you might not have, it was here and was gone pretty quick. It was a streaming service made for your phone, and it was filmed to be where you would either be able to comfortably watch it either in upright phone or sideways phone. It was filmed to work either way, and the shows were broken into like roughly 10-minute segments, or the movies/shows, so that you could watch one on your commute and you wouldn't have to be like committed to like, and I don't know, what was it, Dakota, like $5 a month or something, and they were trying to rely on all these big stars being in these things and having a few things you were familiar with, like, The Fugitive. Here's a show called The Fugitive, and it just died after they after they gave everybody a free trial. Once the free trials ended, I was reading this article where it said like their subscribers just plummeted to like in the thousands or something. And so anyway, that was Quibi. But tonight we're talking about an Amazon Prime show, which seems to be standing up for now. Prime is working out pretty well. And yeah, as we said, this is really a Twilight Zone in a lot of ways. Written and directed and edited. He pretty much kind of did everything in the movie by a guy named Andrew Patterson, where, according to IMDb, this is his first real movie, I guess.
Hearing you say that reminds me of Robert Rodriguez. He used to call that Chopped.
Chopped,
it was written, directed, and edited by Robert Rodriguez, or Chopped by Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, I know, like, if it was a movie that he was trying to convince you, like, don't take this movie too seriously, which he did sometimes. Like, I think it was, like, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, like, it said, like, chop, something with, he used some word for film, chopped, and made by Robert Rodriguez or whatever. He had, like, the three words together. But it was kind of his version of joint. Spike Lee called it a joint. Yeah, and so this was interesting in that you come into this movie and you meet up with this guy, and it almost feels like one long take of him just kind of talking his way through this kind of all these townspeople that are going to this basketball game, like the big Friday night game, everybody's excited for it. In the 50s, it was like in these small towns, it was really like everybody went to the game, and so like the whole town practically is at this basketball game, getting ready for the game to start, the team's inside. And you're realizing this main character guy you're following is the local nighttime DJ, who looks like he's probably in his, what do you think, to go to early 20s, just out of high school, a few years.
Yeah. Which basically is probably his age. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the course of this, you realize that he has this friendship with this high school girl. At first I was like, is this his sister? Is this his niece? And then you realize, oh, it's just like this friend he has that is like 16 and still in high school. But I guess in small towns, that's pretty common where, yeah, you're not the same age, you're not the same gender, but you have similar interests and things, so you just kind of hang out and nobody really thinks as much of it because you're kind of limited on maybe the friends you can make, I suppose, in a small town.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to her, and she's going over to take over for her mom at the switchboard because it's the 50s. You still have your switchboard, and that's, in case you don't know, those things you see musicians plug in for their guitars? What are those? Those quarter-inch.
Are you talking about the amp?
Yeah, well, no, those plugs. I can't think of what size they call those plugs.
Oh, yeah.
But the switchboard operator, they move those plugs around to connect phone calls, and she's going to go do that for the night.
I wouldn't think that was still a thing in the 50s.
But it's in small New Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like how in the Andy Griffith show, the part of how you saw it was a small town was that the phone they had at the sheriff's office was still the dangling, hold it up to your ear style phone. Even though technology had advanced, it was like some of these small towns didn't upgrade quite as quick. Because he'd pick it up and go, Sarah, can you connect me? And it's like, they're still having to be connected, even though it's like the 60s.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the two characters, and really it's like they're the two characters. There's a handful of other supporting characters, and then everyone else, and everything else is just kind of extras. The movie really relies on these two characters and the trip you go on with them, because everyone else is at the basketball game for the most part, which is kind of important for how this story goes. Cody, you want to take over from here? I don't know kind of where we want to go with this. I don't know, because I hate to give away too much. The big thing I think we just kind of want to get across is that if you love like a really cool sci-fi story, this is where it's at. And if you love interesting filmmaking where like you're seeing like he made some really cool choices that not only probably helped him keep the budget down, but I thought were really creative, like movie making at the same time. Like I thought it's like, because when I was watching the movie, you know how sometimes when you watch cheap movies, Dakota, you're immediately reminded that this movie is being made cheap because of you can tell they're being boxed in. Whereas in this, because of these choices he made, that afterwards I thought about it, I was like, that's a pretty bold choice. But I didn't think about it because he was using it so well to tell the story and wasn't making it look like a really hard hurdle.
Yeah. There are some movies out there, quite a bit actually, that don't have that big of a budget, so they try to go for this kind of almost like found footage point of view type look, which just in certain instances it just looks trashy and like why does this look like a found footage movie when it's really not?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name any names this time. I'll let you go. But oh man, let's just come right out and talk about what we love about this. And right out of the gate, love the cinematography of this.
That's the thing. It's just like,
and it's almost like it's done so professionally. You're like, man, this dude had to have gone to like film school for like 10 years and had to have been like Richard Donner's understudy, or I suppose probably pick someone a little more current. Robert Rodriguez.
Stick with it. I like the Richard Donner.
I suppose it's been a while since he made anything, but I love the cinematography, and I've said this kind of time and again. We have certain movies that kind of satisfy us. Just kind of I mentioned Palm Springs. That was kind of a cute little, interesting romantic comedy. Extraction on Netflix. That was just an over the top, great action movie. Probably one of the best action movie of last year. But this one it's such a small film, and it kind of relies on acting.
Mm-hmm.
And the two main characters, not only do they sell it, but they really sucker you in to the point where you're just kind of at the edge of your seat. And it's it gets to that point in the movie where like if somebody like just walked in your door, all of a sudden you'd probably have a heart attack because you're just so wrapped up in the story.
Yeah. And there was even a few moments in this film where with what they were doing, like when they were trying to put together some of the mystery that you get caught up with in this, where it was really unnerving, but like in a like exciting, so like a fun, exciting sort of way, where it was like, I really don't know where this could go right now, and I just found that like so fun and refreshing, because I just feel like I don't know, it just feels like so many of the movies you see now, and man, it's even some movies that I like, but I just don't get as like surprised as much as I wish I did. Where it was just like, I feel like I know what's going to happen next. And even sometimes when I'm excited that I was right, like, oh, that's what I was hoping would happen. I'm glad that happened. sometimes I'm just as equally excited when it's something I didn't expect but still makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, if it just goes completely unexpected and it's just stupid, that's one thing. But when it's like, when you're wrong, but you're wrong in a fun, exciting way, it's like, man, I'm glad I'm wrong. You're just as happy that you're wrong too. And sometimes I get like more of excitement out of that because you're not expecting it. And I found that a few different times in this movie where I was like, because this movie really, as you're watching this movie, it's like the tension is just ratcheting. It's just ratcheting where it's just like, where is this going? How, like, I don't know where this is going. I don't know how this is going to end. And you just feel it kind of tightening and tightening. And so each time one of those little moments happens where you're not sure what's going to happen, you, like Dakota said, like, somebody walked up behind you, you'd about jump out of your chair because you're kind of like caught up in what's gonna happen. And so that, I mean, I loved that whole aspect of it too. And I think part of that just plays into what we were talking about, the creative choices that were made, and just that you're so wrapped up in the world because of just the way, the look of it. Because on top of that cinematography, it really felt like 1950s.
Yeah,
in pretty much every way.
Yeah, such a very small film, but man, you could tell whoever made this really put heart and soul into it. And uh, I'm not going to spoil anything here. This is one of those films I believe you definitely should watch.
And we want you to experience it the way we did,
That's
as much as
right.
possible.
There's I don't know. Recently, there's been kind of a lot of films we haven't put the stamp on it. This
Yeah.
one, we're definitely putting it on there.
Yeah.
If you don't have Amazon Prime,
That's the one bummer, is that this is a Prime exclusive. We're guessing from what we could find out that it must have been in a film festival and probably went over well, I would imagine. And then, it's one of those where then part of what's great about film festivals and that why we should still want them to go on is that a lot of great films and filmmakers and actors are discovered through them, because then these studios are at them and then they go, we want to buy this movie, and then it allows these filmmakers a bigger spotlight. That's what I'm thinking with Andrew Patterson, this guy who made this. It's like, man, I kind of want to know what else he's got up his sleeve, if he can make some of these cool choices that I liked here, I'd like to see, what else do you got? So,
yeah, this is definitely one of those things we can't sing the praises of it enough. But let's flip the side. Any real downsides, negatives you had about the film?
I don't know. It's hard, and maybe I'm still kind of on the honeymoon with it a little, even though it wasn't like I just watched it an hour ago. But it's kind of stuck with me in like a way where I just like liked it a lot. I can't think of anything really off the top of my head that really bothered me that much. I felt like, it wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. I wasn't confused for 20 minutes at a time, like Tenet or something. And so I guess as far as that stuff, I thought for the most part the acting was, pretty tight. I thought everybody's acting was, and so yeah, I mean, out of the normal stuff you immediately think of, I guess I could get really nitpicky maybe. Like, oh, I'm mad I had to watch it at home, but I'm not even really mad I had to watch it at home either. Because I'm just fortunate enough to be able to have a nice TV with nice speakers, and I get to sit in a nice chair. And for a movie like this, it's a good one to watch at home, honestly. And that's no knock to the filmmaker either. In fact, that'll probably benefit him. The fact that Prime did buy it and the fact that it is enjoyable to watch at home will probably be to his benefit to get more people to watch it.
I highly recommend watching this like in a house that's just completely empty, in the dark.
It's the other thing I was thinking about. I watched this by myself a little later at night in my basement.
Ooh.
It's like this is like optimal viewing experience of a movie like this, because you're just like, it just kind of gives you a little extra. And so, yeah, maybe if you got a spot like that, it'd probably add to the ambiance.
Yeah.
Nobody behind me crunching their popcorn too loud.
Okay. Something I will throw out there, though. This isn't like, and I kind of did this with The Assistant when I reviewed The Assistant. this isn't going to be a movie like Signs where there's jump scares and there's like, oh, we gotta get away from the alien. It's chasing us. Grab the double barrel shotgun out of the back of the truck, and it's not really like that. This is a movie that kind of it's playing to its strengths, and its strengths are suspense, intrigue.
Yeah,
So
just fun characters to be with. Because I found even the two leads, they were characters I wanted to be with.
oh yeah,
You know,
Oh.
whereas sometimes it's like, is this person gonna die yet? Sometimes that happens when you're watching a movie. Yeah, that was the thing. It's like I never really felt like there was a scene that didn't need to be there, just because I would imagine also the people making this movie didn't want to waste time on scenes they didn't feel like needed to be there. You know, when you're on a tighter budget.
I actually after I watched this the second time and really thought about it, I had a crazy idea.
I'm with you. Okay,
Okay, so take the film, take
like
the
to work with me.
No. take all the dialogue, the score, all the background, ambiance, whatever you want to call it. Put like an old timey 1930s filter on it, and just listen to it, and it'd be like, man, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, this is one where if you did it right, not in like a crappy just throw a filter over it sort of way, but if you film this well in black and white, kind of like Schindler's List, where it was a convincing black and white, it would probably work well as a black and white movie
Yeah.
too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, more so.
It'd probably you'd have to change the lighting a little bit.
Yeah, but I just thought that would be interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I think it plays into the fact that it really is. I mean, he was really crafting a long episode of The Twilight Zone, which I think just plays into that same type of thing.
But it's only an hour and a half, which
Yeah, it's not even a big time commitment or anything either. It's not like you have to watch this whole 10-part series to get a cool sci-fi story.
yeah, the last movie we reviewed was kind of had a little too much heft to it, and
Yeah.
this one is just a nice. It's like nice and easy to get through, and
I it's a really I thought for the most part it's a really palatable movie. Like if you had someone that you wish would willingly watch maybe a little more of a tense movie with you, I think this is a really more palatable one. Because like Dakota said, there isn't the dumb jump scares. There isn't like just gore all over the place or whatever. It just allows you to kind of enjoy the experience, where this would be a good one to watch with someone who isn't quite as on board with some of those types of kind of eerie suspense type movies.
yeah, thankfully no crappy CGI either,
Yeah.
which is so rare in film nowadays.
Yeah, it's getting to be a rarity. And the thing is like maybe maybe there was, because sometimes, movies do get away with sneaking it in and you don't know because they use it sparingly.
Yeah,
So,
but overall,
yeah, I mean, overall, it sounds like I'm calling this movie like sheer perfection, which I mean, it isn't perfect, but it's just that when I just put it all together, it's hard for me to like be like, oh, that was. I just found it a really enjoyable movie and thought it was probably one of the best sci-fi movies I've really seen in a while. Like a true kind of sci-fi type movie like this, and not just like how like some Marvel movies, when you look at the rating of it, will be like sci-fi action. It's like, okay, well, I don't consider Guardians of the Galaxy a sci-fi movie, and so as far as like a true sci-fi movie, this is like probably one of the best I've seen in a long time.
you know what I think would be a great follow up to this.
What's that?
They do it from the other side, where you have like 2 FBI agents come to town,
That would be interesting.
and you just turn the first film on its head.
Oh yeah, it could be fun to play with that.
Yeah,
There you go, Andrew Patterson. There's your next movie, the director of this.
or as we would like to call you, Jim.
So on a scale of 1 to 5 old box televisions with those cool rabbit ear antennas on top.
The Radiation Kings. Yeah.
How many boob tubes do you give it?
4. Definitely 4.
4 out of 5. All right. I think I'm right there with you. I'm going to do 4 out of 5 just because, like we said, I mean, obviously it's not sheer perfection, but man, I would absolutely love if there were more movies, not exactly like this. Obviously, nobody likes a copycat, but more movies that just give you this type of like fun and suspense and just a breezy good time. Yeah. And it's always exciting when you kind of feel like you're kind of there at the beginning of someone who might go on to do something more. So that's always kind of fun too. So as you can tell, we really like The Vast of Night, and we'd be curious what you think of it. So if you have watched it, we'd love to know what you thought. And then if this is going to cause you to watch it, or you watched it because of this, please let us know. Also what you thought of it, and tell us how we're totally full of crap and it was terrible, even though I think that's going to be a pretty rarity.
You know,
it'd be hard to call this movie absolute crap, in my opinion.
You know, I just because this is on Amazon Prime, I'm gonna feel like there's gonna be some people who are like huge fans of The Boys, who come from that show to watch this, and like, man, what was this garbage, man? I want my hour and a half back, man. You give me my hour and a half back.
Well, if you've already watched that many episodes of The Boys, you've wasted a lot of your time already. So congratulations.
How that's. I'm not gonna say you're wrong. I'm just gonna silently nod my head.
Sure. You just don't want to be on audible record. So anyway, we'd love to hear your thoughts on The Vast of Night. So just let us know. And where you can is, of course, we have Facebook, and maybe you're listening to this on YouTube. You can put it on there. But yeah, please like us in all those places and check us out in those places, and leave us reviews, all that sort of good stuff. So we'd love any of that. So I think with that, we'll wrap up this we kept a breezy episode for a nice breezy movie. Yeah, thanks for listening. This is Steven.
This is Dakota.
You are now exiting the Paradox Theater.